Human beings have been building cars for over a century, and in that time, we've established a few basic ground rules. The wheels go at the bottom, the steering wheel goes in the front, and if you want to see what you're about to back into, you look out the piece of glass at the back. But now, Polestar has looked at the rear window and said, no, that's boring. So they've thrown it into the garbage. Say hello to the Polestar 4, a car that attempts to fix a problem that nobody had by replacing a piece of glass with a television screen. So does that set the precedent for this car, or is it actually brilliant? Polestar calls this a coupe SUV. Usually, when a manufacturer puts those two words together, the result looks more like an egg. Think Tesla Model Y or Mercedes-Benz GLE Coupe. But this one is different. Because it's built on a dedicated EV platform, it's wide, low, and genuinely stunning. It looks like a concept car that escaped from an auto show. Well, let's address the elephant in the room, the missing rear window. Why did Polestar do this? Well, by deleting the rear window, the engineers managed to improve the aerodynamics, free up passenger headroom, and maintain the sleek coupe-like silhouette. To compensate for the lack of a rear window, what you get instead is a digital rear view mirror. This is great because it gives you a completely unobstructed view out the back, but it's not a perfect solution. Not only is it different from literally every other car out there, but your eyes have to constantly readjust between looking down the road in front of you and looking close up at a TV screen. For some, this can be very straining on their eyes over a prolonged period of time. Also now, you can no longer flip the bird to somebody behind you who did something stupid because they can't see it. You have to roll down the window, stick your arm out, flip the bird, and then roll your window back up. To me, this reasoning to remove the back window sounds a little suspicious. They could have easily fit a small window on that tailgate that didn't have a complicated to manufacture organic shape. And there are a few good-looking coupe SUVs out on the market, like the Toyota CHR for example, that still has a back window. If it's for structural rigidity purposes, why not just add a bit more material around where the window would have been? I think Polestar did this just for the sake of being different, which doesn't necessarily translate to better. Anyway, enough about the lack of a back window. Back up here in the front, the Polestar 4 follows the same design trends set by its predecessors. That means minimalist and sterile. The steering wheel does have physical buttons, and the rotary knob on the center console allows you to adjust the radio volume, but everything else is integrated into this touchscreen. So hopefully it never freezes or just blanks out, because then you're kind of screwed. Want to change the climate temperature? Use the touchscreen. Want to manually turn on the headlights? Use the touchscreen. Want to open the glove box? Use the touchscreen. Granted, some of these functions, like changing the climate temperature, can be adjusted by using voice commands, which work just fine. But for other things, the built-in AI can't do, such as adjusting the air vent direction, which is done through the touchscreen. Other functions, like adjusting the exterior mirrors or the steering wheel, are done through the steering wheel mounted buttons, just like a Tesla. Thankfully, operating the windows is done in a traditional way and not by using the touchscreen. As for the infotainment system, it is Google-based, so that means you have Google Maps front and center, as well as Google Assistant helping you out. There is a panel that allows you to add your favorite shortcuts like the one pedal mode or opening the glove box. And I do like the big icons when you go into some of the sub-menus. There's also a little description to let you know what each function does. Overall, it's a good system and one that is easy to learn quickly. As for space up here in the front, it's not an issue. Plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom, plus good visibility all around. But what about the back? Well, remember how I said that by removing the back window, the engineers allowed for more headroom? Well, it's true. My hair is not brushing up against the moonroof. As for legroom, behind my 6'4" driving position, my knees don't touch the back of the front seat. However, when this seat is at its lowest position, like how it is right now, space for my feet is not great. It's pretty much non-existent. Combined with the massive panoramic glass roof that stretches over your head, it feels less like a back seat and more like a business class lounge on an Emirates flight. It's cozy, dark, but cocoon-like. Behind the seats, there are 526 liters of cargo space. If you need more, fold down the backrest and that number jumps to 1,536 liters of space. There's also a little cubby underneath the trunk floor for smaller items. And up front, yes, there is a frunk. It's not going to carry your grocery bags, but it's enough for something like the charging cable. But looking pretty and not seeing where you've been is only half the story. What happens when you feed the motors some electrons? Here in Canada, you have two versions of the Polestar 4 that you can choose from. There's a single motor rear-wheel drive that produces 272 horsepower and has a 0 to 100 km/h time of around 7 seconds, which is plenty fast for everyday city driving. But if you want that feeling of getting pinned to the back of the seat, then it's this dual motor version that you want. It produces 544 horsepower and 506 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 100k takes just 3.8 seconds. This makes the Polestar 4 the fastest Polestar to date. But it doesn't have to give that neck-snapping acceleration when you're just driving around town. In the touchscreen or on the steering wheel mounted buttons, you can change the power delivery to be more relaxed. However, you'll want to keep it in its more aggressive settings when you encounter some corners. Like many other EVs, this one is as heavy as a Rhino at over 2.3 tons. So, like many other EVs, it has a planted feeling when you toss it through corners on an interesting road. The steering can be firmed up as well as the suspension, but the feel is more so traditional SUV rather than GT3 race car. But if you can't be bothered with driving, then the Polestar 4 can drive itself. Eventually. For now, it's only available with Pilot Assist, which is a hands-on system. It's great for keeping the car centered in the lane or adjusting the speed, or even assisting with lane changes. But you have to keep your hands on the wheel at all times and be paying attention to the road ahead. Eventually, with over-the-air updates, the Polestar 4 will have chauffeur technology to allow for eyes-off, hands-free point-to-point driving on highways and in certain other environments. But for now, hands on the steering wheel and pay attention to the road ahead. Now for the second most important numbers of this car, the driving range. The single motor version is rated for up to 499 kilometers, while this dual motor version can go up to 451 kilometers. The clever bit is that in the driver display, you can have it show the certified range or the dynamic driving range, which changes based on your driving style, climate control usage, ambient temperature, and so on. So it's a bit more of an accurate representation of how far the car will actually go. When needing to recharge, the 100 kWh battery pack can accept up to 200 kilowatts of power. 10% to 80% is estimated to take 30 minutes, while 0% to 100% from an AC 11 kilowatt charger will take about 11 hours. Now for the most important number of this car, the price. The single motor version starts at just under $60,000 Canadian, and this dual motor version will cost you an additional $5,000 Canadian. Add to that the Plus package, performance package, and a couple of standalone options, and you're looking at a $90,000 EV. That is, of course, before fees and taxes. So the Polestar 4 is trying to stand out in an increasingly crowded luxury EV market. But I think it's taking a controversial step that it didn't need to. Polestar's designers and engineers could have added a small window without ruining the great exterior styling. And that interior is too sterile for my liking. This is not the car for me. There are too many screens on the inside, not enough physical controls, and I do not want to interact with an AI to change a setting. But if you don't mind being driven around by an AI and you don't mind the Tesla-like controls, but without your neighbors and your other neighbors' Tesla-like design, then the Polestar 4 is a futuristic EV that will have everybody stopping and staring at it. Just make sure you keep a cloth on the inside so you can wipe that rear camera. In the meantime, if you would like to know more about this 2026 Polestar 4, I have a more detailed written review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up here. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.